What is up, fellow thermonuclear AFers? I am Dan Valley coming at you with some more wonderful hoops talk. Please, if you have not done so already, hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to me if you also like and comment on the video to help the algorithm love us back. Please continue to help us build this HardwoodKnocks community on YouTube. Appreciate everyone who hits that sub button and returns. Just help us continue to grow. Tell people about us if you've already hit the sub button as well. Going to dive into, I already did check out the video of the biggest disappointment from every NBA team, an article published by my coworker, Zach Buckley over at Bleacher Report. He did the inverse of that. Every team's biggest surprise for the start of this season. Let's go through those, trying to do this very quickly and see what, again, live reaction, haven't seen this yet, and just see what he came up with, what we agree, what we disagree with, and let's just generally go off. Okay, we are on to the Atlanta Hawks. Winning with defense, I would say that that's probably a fair surprise as well. I think when you look at the roster, you might expect them to skew towards offense. They've only been 16th in points scored per possession, though. A lot of that has been just really bad shooting. Don't get to the foul line. They're 8th in defense. Meanwhile, there might be a little bit of shooting luck caked in. This is a team that doesn't force turnovers, but also fouls a lot. But still, yeah, count me. Look, they have their point differentials, like only plus 0.7 per 100 possessions, but top 8. I thought their offense still would have performed their defense, is my point, even after the Kevin Huerter trading him and then acquiring DeJounte Murray. Boston Celtics, Sam Hauser's ascension from afterthought to asset. If you ask people in Boston, they are not surprised by this, but he is just a caps lock, bold text, italic shooter, and he's got real motion to him as well. So definitely their most, I guess, performer that you would have not definitely predicted to stand out. That did. Brooklyn Nets, Edmund Sumner. The difference maker, yeah, look, he's had some pretty rough games where I thought he was dribbling too much, but this guy is comfortable getting out in transition, putting the ball in his hand, attacking in the half court. I'm not sure that you would have thought he needed to be such a critical part of the Nets rotation this year either. Some injuries definitely opened the door for that, but he's been really good and just a high energy player for them. Can be moved around a lot on the defensive end as well. The Charlotte Hornets, Dennis Smith Jr. making good things happen. Yeah. It's like the defense. Dennis Smith Jr. last time I checked was like in the top 5 or 7 of deflections per game. He's been setting up the offense really well. This is by far not just the biggest surprise in the Hornets, but it's, you know, he's one of the biggest surprises in the NBA. He said that he was going to consider an NFL career just a few months before. So just everything better finishing at the rim for him and also lowering his turnover rate. The Chicago Bulls, Goran Dragic got his groove back. It's almost like the Mavs wanting to sign him and play every third day was one of the dumbest things that you heard over the offseason, because that's in fact what it was. It's uncomfortable how much the Bulls have needed Goran Dragic this year, but it's also just like giving him a steadying presence, someone who's been able to do things with the ball in his hand, but also play well off others a little bit. It feels like Goran Dragic, is an impact player once more after sort of the past 2 years of hovering between. And then certainly last year when he just doesn't even really play, is buried in Toronto for most of the season. So just like never reports there, I guess, or did he report? I can't remember, but I'm shocked at how well he's playing, but I'm still equally shocked that the Mavs wanted to sign him only to play like 5 minutes a game or every third day. Just an age 36-year-old who's really putting together some nice efficiency and like sub 20 minutes a night, but that's fine. Cleveland Cavaliers, Dean Wade making a leap. This is still surprising. I think he's emerged as just like the definitive, he would have to close when he's healthy. He's going to close at the 3 for us, and that's how it should be. I thought maybe Isaac Okoro, who's been a disaster on offense, and then maybe even Jetty Osman or Karis LeVert would work their way into that conversation, or we'd be, let's say this, we're clamoring for the Cavs to make a trade more urgently than we have. They've had some just iffy moments of late, but this guy is 25 and he's just sort of everywhere he needs to be on defense, knocking down his threes. Dallas Mavericks, Spencer Dinwiddie doesn't miss from distance. Their biggest surprise. Yeah, I wrote off Spencer Dinwiddie shooting as just sort of this late season anomaly with the Mavericks. He's tantalized with efficient outside shooting in the past, only to see it regress. He's kept it up this year. This is just like, someone who's a career 32.2% shooter, and now he's at 45.9% per Buckley. That is wild. Will he keep it up? We'll have to see. The Mavericks certainly need him to, because they don't have a ton of other options to just reliably score. Forget about dribbling, even though he's one of the 2 most important ball handlers on the roster. They just don't have a ton of people who can consistently stretch the floor at the moment. Like we've seen Maxi Kleber go through some rough stretches, ditto for Reggie Bullock, and also Tim Hardaway Jr. as well. So he's been hyper important, definitely outperformed my expectation. Denver Nuggets, Bones Highlands outside the arc touch. I'm going to disagree here. He was such a good shooter last season, like off the dribble, as a spot up guy. There was just some really good live dribble passing from him as well. So, and I've actually been disappointed in some of the decisions he's made inside the arc this year. And he's been, I feel like, almost worse defensively, or maybe I'm just more keyed in onto his flaws. I would have to say just like Christian Brown playing a role on this team would be most surprising for me, or maybe even the Nuggets being so bad protecting the basket this year, just because it's not Nikola Jokic's fault, but they're allowing over 70% conversion rate at the rim. Yes, is Jokic responsible for that because you have to bring him up so high for him to work defensively? Yes, but I thought they just had enough talent behind him to where that wasn't going to be as huge of an issue. So Bowen's been great, but I'm not really surprised. I mean, whatever number, even with Michael Porter Jr., okay, he was shooting at a historic clip from 3 for a while. That doesn't surprise me. Detroit Pistons, the rookie's readiness. Yeah, I think that's fair. Jalen Duren specifically, whatever you thought of Jaden Ivey, we're going to get to see more run with him independent of Cade now that Cade's dealing with that shin injury. But I've been really impressed with Jalen Duren. Just looks ready to sort of make an impact, changing shots around the basket, and just looks like he is going to be like a dominant finisher when he gets going downhill, and if teammates could find him. So I've been, from what I've seen of Jalen Duren, just absolutely blown away. And it doesn't look like someone who's just sort of capitalizing on his physical tools, but that there's actual feel there. With Jaden Ivey, I still just want to see how him and Cade are going to work out long term, but I think he's been really good. When you look at him, I see people compare him to John Morant. I see the vision sometimes with him as a passer and some of the things he does after he leaves his feet. So I get it. That was a good one, Buck. Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry posting several career marks. I would probably say so we have to, it's positive surprises, which is why Denver Nuggets rim protection wouldn't have worked. The Christian Brown role would still have been it for me. That kind of has to be Golden State. I would say Anthony Lamb being like, the 7th most important player in their rotation to date this season was probably a surprise, but he's been dominant. He's going to turn 35 by the end of this year. It's his age 34 campaign, and he's just absolutely annihilating defenses. And the Warriors are killing opponents when he's on the floor. Surprise, surprise, they're getting trucked when he's off. He belongs in the MVP discussion to be this good at age 34. I think that's, even by his standards, it's been surprising. Houston Rockets, the offensive output of defensive specialists. Tari Eason, yeah, for sure. He's giving you 3-point shooting and then some really just hit some like really tough layups and nice runners. He's been great. Usman Garuba shooting 87+% from 3, a whopping 7 of 8, making some really nice passes. We've seen him put the ball on the floor. Seems to be processing things at a higher speed. So I think you could absolutely go this route for them. That was a fantastic pick, Buckley. This was a great one. Indiana Pacers, elite offense. Yeah, I just think you looked at the roster and thought they were more on the inexperienced side, that it was, this team was just naturally going to be bad. And instead they're, 9-6, and they have the 9th best offense, pumping in 114.7 points per 100 possessions. They're a really good offensive rebounding team. They do turn the ball over a lot. They get to the line a good amount too. They're out in transition a bunch. I believe they are out in transition the second most of any team in the league. So they play pretty fast. They're 7th in average offensive possession time. I know that because I just written something about it. I didn't see this coming. I thought Halliburton was going to be good, but Benedict Mathurin averaging over 19 points a game on 60+ true shooting. He's just been absolutely great, like with the ball in his hands, without the ball in his hands. So yeah, that's definitely been their biggest surprise. Maybe sort of some of the stuff Miles Turner's did, but he's only been healthy a short time. The Clippers, John Wall looks like John Wall. Sure. I think, yeah, but he's been like one of the worst shooters in the league this year from mid-range and 3-point range. Maybe that's to be expected. The on-ball speed is still intact though. So I think that's fair. And look, let's be honest. We're kind of hard up for good surprises in Clippers land this year. Their performance has normalized recently, and their defense has been dominant. And that might be the other thing, that I know that they're built to defend, but like they are 2nd in points allowed per possession, and they don't force turnovers. They don't foul. I guess you would expect that. They're not like super hyper aggressive. They're just blanketing. And they do have a lot of, old and slower wings or interchangeable guys in the front court, but it's working for them. And so I would say 2nd in defense, given how much time Kawhi Leonard is missed, and then also given how reliant they are on a John Wall, Reggie Jackson, that's been a bigger surprise to me. The Lakers, Lonnie Walker IV making good on his potential. Is it that? Is it Austin Reeves? Is it Russ kind of looking at home off the bench? I think it could be any of these things. Lonnie Walker IV is a good one, though. I will say, I wrote about this. I was flabbergasted at how well he's fit in to the larger context of the offense, where it's like, yeah, he can do his on-ball stuff, but he's been moving really well without the ball. too. And I just viewed him as someone who wouldn't be able to do that, especially within the confined spaces of the Lakers offense. Memphis Grizzlies, Desmond Bane's shot creation. I think this is the answer because we know how good Desmond Bane was from last year, but now he's taking even more of his baskets are going unassisted. And we have someone who's like, I think he's tripled or doubled the number of pick and rolls that he's running per game or something just absurd like that. So he's took a rookie to sophomore leap and then made another leap on top of that. Like you don't normally see two gargantuan leaps consecutively from players who like weren't billed as stars to begin with. He was his rookie season. He was this modestly bordering on sparingly used specialty shooter. And now he's the Grizzlies' second most important half-court creator. He's out right now. But like that is just not a transition I ever saw coming. Shout out to Desmond Bane. He's fantastic. Miami Heat, Max Strus taking another leap. I think you have to go with this one just because the Heat have been, I guess, wildly disappointing overall. Half-court offense is kind of a mess. They definitely miss PJ Tucker. Bam has not taken a step on offense. Lowry's been touch and go. I know they've dealt with some injuries and absences this season. Victor Oladipo hasn't even played yet. I think you can maybe also go as Tyler Hero sort of impressed. Like maybe his numbers have come down a little bit, but everyone thought he was going to transition to more of like sort of this off-ball role. He's not as focused on passing this year, but he's been slinging it for a lot. Maybe that's just not surprising to you after watching him his entire career. But he's been like kind of on fire for most of the season off the dribble. But like the Heat, as Bucky wrote, they're like a worse version of last season's squad, so they're not really impacting. They're not really shocking or awing anybody. Milwaukee Bucks, Javon Carter understanding the assignment. Is that a surprise? I guess. Like the way he's playing is just very Javon Carter-y. But this is another team that's sort of hard up for surprises because they are who we expected them to be. And that's pretty dominant. Even though they've lost a few games that might make you get your attention. Then Giannis has been struggling from the foul line, sub 60% there, been struggling from the outside as well. Shooting like under 30% from mid range, under 30% on three, has not looked great. I think what I would also go with is that this is surprising to me that they are so good at defending both the rim and the 3-point line right now. Like we just don't, they're the third best rim protecting team in the league. And then they're limiting the amount of shots that their opponents are taking from three this year. They're fourth. So when you're looking at volume, let's do it this way. They rank in the top 5 of both a volume allowed both at the rim and from the 3-point line. That is really, really hard to do. And if I had to guess, they're the only team that's doing it right now. No, Boston, Milwaukee, which is just funny because Boston's defense without Robert Williams III, maybe because they're not forcing as many turnovers, it has pulled back a bit. But I think that's my bigger surprise for Milwaukee because I look at Javon Carter, him playing such a big role. I get it. But we've seen him do this before. It's just that he didn't do it in Brooklyn. He did it for a time in Phoenix. So I'm going to go with how the Bucks are like all of a sudden just like limiting 3-point attempts when they were giving those up readily for so long. Minnesota Timberwolves, Taurean Prince's sizzling slash line. I think that's fair. This is a team that's like probably hasn't too many other surprises if you wanted to go with some of the play of Jalen Noel or even Jordan McLaughlin at points, but like now we're sort of reaching. Jalen Noel cooled off after a pretty hot start. So I think this is the answer. And Taurean Prince kind of showed signs of life last year. And now you're talking about someone who's going for over 42% of his threes when that had sort of like been dragged down a bit in previous levels. And as Buckley notes, he's like kind of slashing 50, 40, 90 at the moment. Not a huge free throw guy in terms of volume, but shooting over 94% there. He's really critical to their spacing because that's a team that still needs it and is figuring themselves out on the offensive end. Pelicans, Trey Murphy's emergence for New Orleans. Yeah, I think people sort of saw flashes of this last season, but he's outplayed Herb Jones at this point. I'm not sure that a lot of people expected that to happen. So I would think that's definitely a surprise. And he's shown everything from just motion shooting to being able to defend up and down the positional spectrum to even just sort of having like some quick decision-making with the ball in his hands. So I think that's definitely it. There's certainly not a rosier surprise unless you want to focus on Jose Alvarado. I guess you could go there. New York Knicks, Tibbs trying to top his rental lineup. He first busted out against the Sixers a while ago when there was no Embiid, no Harden, the Knicks were down, feel the comeback. The numbers on that lineup are not great, but he has gone to it a little, or I would say a lot more often because it was relative to never going to it. That's probably the biggest surprise that he's gone there. I mean, because it's certainly not, he hasn't staggered Randall and RJ Barrett enough. I think Jalen Brunson's been fantastic, but did you really expect that? You could go with RJ Barrett's finishing. He's been terrible, but if you look at his Go back and look at RJ Barrett. His first 5 games, then his next 7, and then his last 5. Just such a roller coaster this year. But if you wanted to focus on his finishing, which is now dropped, it was up for a second, so that really can't be it now that I think about it. So what is the pleasant surprise for the Knicks? Emmanuel Quickley's defense, I think. He just looks like he's been like one of their feistiest or the feistiest perimeter defender that they've had this year. So do you go with him? Maybe some Cam's Reddish emergence too. He's played some really hyper engaged minutes when he's been given the opportunity for them. I think I would lean more toward one of those two, just because Tibbs hasn't, I would say, consistently tried the top end Randall lineup. That's so I would slightly disagree there. It was good for a laugh. Oklahoma City, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander joining the MVP race. I think you can go with Alexei Pokusevski being so good this year. But yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as we record this, has been a top 10 player. He was 5th on my last MVP ladder. No one predicted that 20% of the way through the season. As high as anyone was on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I thought I was pretty high. No one predicted that. That's easy. He's just been mind-meltingly brilliant is the only way to describe it. And the Thunder are winning the minutes he's on the court, by the way. Orlando Magic, Bol Bol's breakout. Yeah, there's people who are just like, why do we need Victor Wembanyama when Bol Bol's already in the league? His value, when you look at his ball skills, is just sort of a wing type on offense. He's giving you some defensive disruption as well. But it looks really fluid and just like it's coming together this season. And some of the layups he can finish from it feels like 18 feet out, and he's just able to finger roll it in. He's been great. And yeah, I guess I thought his career was over, but they re-signed him. It was to an afterthought deal. And I didn't think there was going to be a pathway to minutes for him. And injuries have sort of carved out a way. I don't think we ever should have banked on Jonathan Isaac being available, but Paolo Banchero missing some time. But him just immediately usurping Mo Bamba in the rotation. Yeah, easy. And he's been great for Orlando. Philadelphia 76ers, dominant defense. I'm going to say yes, because they fucking sucked in transition to start the year, and their numbers haven't even all the way rebounded. But you look at how injured they've been. Joel Embiid missed some time, and he's about to miss more time. And then you were playing with James Harden a bunch. Maxey feels like he has regressed on the defensive end since his rookie season, even since last year. Yes, you did have PJ Tucker. You have the Anthony Melton. You have Daniel House. But I think you just look at the names on this roster, and it's like, okay, well, Harden, Embiid, Maxey, that's going to be an offensive identity. No, I mean, the Sixers have been wildly uninventive on the offensive end, but they're 4th now in points allowed per possession on defense. They're also just they're forcing a shit ton of turnovers. And I think you look at the personnel, Tucker, Melton, even Maxey being there, Daniel House, haven't forgotten about him, but many minutes that Paul Reed gets plus Joel Embiid. I guess we should have seen it, but they're in the top 7 of both opponent effective field goal percentage and turnovers forced. That's big for them. So I do think that's been a surprise. I don't really know that you could look at a singular player though, and think otherwise. Though maybe Joel Embiid just putting up Wilt Chamberlain numbers when he came back from the first injury. Phoenix Suns, Mikal Bridges going berserk. Yes. So it's a surprise because I kind of thought and we had talked about it on the podcast, and all of a sudden he starts exploding immediately afterwards. Not him settling down, running a ton of pick and rolls, which people wondered if he could do. He is just super aggressive, making decisions so quick on the ball, not just in terms of moving it, but now actually looking to score, firing off threes, moving with the ball in his hands, and actually putting pressure on the defense. Maybe not getting all the way to the basket, but putting the defenses in rotation or forcing them to react. That's a big surprise. I think you get to a point where, year 5 of Mikal Bridges, and it's just he might be your 5th best offensive player. But no, there have been nights now, especially with Chris Paul out, he's helped prop up the Suns as their 2nd best offensive player. I will say I feel like the bigger surprise for me has been just the overall depth. The fact that they've been able to navigate no Jay Crowder, no Chris Paul, Cam Johnson also getting injured, and Torrey Craig is stepping up. Jock Landale, oh no, he didn't play the other night, but he's also just giving you really solid minutes. But we're going to give a look to Bismack Biyombo. Wish Wainwright's coming in, and he's really tough to get by on defense. We've gotten some really big minutes from Damian Lee. Oh, we'll throw Josh Okogie in there to try and juice up our stopping power. Their depth is surprising more than anything. I thought they were a very top-heavy team, and I think the talent discrepancy still implies that, but they're deeper than advertised, it turns out. Portland Trailblazers, the top 10 defense. Yeah, I mean, yeah, all things Blazers there on the defense. They played small when they played big, with Nurkic at the 5, obviously. They've just been able to make things happen. And they are currently, as we record this, they have fallen outside the top 10. They are top 11, but that's still higher than I would have pegged them for. They are 20th in opponent effective field goal percentage, but they don't force turnovers a ton. They're also not fouling a ton. They do a pretty good job on the defensive glass. I think they just have a lot of really high IQ guys. When you look at defensively, Josh Hart, Jeremy Grant, Nurkic knows how to play in the coverage that you throw him in. I think Anthony Simons, Damian Lillard have both been better this year. Not to say they've been the driving force behind the defense, but I think they have both been better. And Dame has been, I think he's still out. I don't think he returned. He was out for 1 or 2 weeks. I think it certainly helps, like giving some of the different looks with having Watford and Justice Winslow and Drew Eubanks. Like all of those guys have been able to give him good varying minutes in the front court. I'm absolutely floored at their defensive performance. If you had told me they were 11th, 16 games into the season, and Gary Payton II still hadn't played, I would have just told you that you were lying to me. I probably would have said some more choice words, like you were a fucking idiot. Sacramento Kings, Kevin Huerter can't miss. Yeah, this is just like, he has like an effective field goal percentage of 1,000,000 on off the dribble looks right now. I think that's a fair surprise. Could it also be De'Aaron Fox entering all NBA territory? Could it also be just that the Kings are second overall in points scored per possession? Maybe you're not too shocked by that when you look at the talent on this roster, but like second in points scored per possession, second, like only behind Boston. Boston being one in itself is kind of disarming. So and the Kings have the top effective field goal percentage in the league. They don't turn the ball over either. Getting to the line a bunch. I think the macro of their offense is most surprising. Maybe it shouldn't be, because they were built to score with Sabonis and Fox and Monk and Huerter. Barnes coming around a little bit now, and then Keegan Murray's been solid for them. So yeah, I guess Huerter's been the most surprising player, unless you just kind of thought De'Aaron Fox was what he was, and that was a human roller coaster and wasn't going to enter surefire all-star / potential all-NBA territory. But yeah, I fave this one too, and it's probably pretty accurate. I think either or there. San Antonio Spurs, Trey Jones taking it all in stride. Maybe. This is just like, he is clearly their best game manager. Someone who doesn't turn the ball over, is going to give you a steady number of assists, hit some nice mid-range jumpers. I'm going to go with Devin Vassell, though. He's not necessarily slowing down and orchestrating the entire offense, but he's been one of the most efficient pick and roll scorers in the entire NBA. That is like, I'm not lying to you. He was averaging, last time I checked, he was like averaging 1.12 points per possession as a pick and roll ball handler, which is ridiculously high. That has surprised me more than Trey Jones, who was sort of that steadying presence last year as well. Toronto Raptors, Pascal Siakam chasing second most improved player award. This is spicy, Buck. Is he in the conversation for that? Man, I don't know if he's in the conversation for second most improved player award. And the fact that he's injured, like, that's not going to help whatever case he's making, whether it's for MVP, just by virtue of volume. But the spiciness here, as the Raptors are just so unbelievably banged up. I mean, you're looking at him. He's like, yeah, I don't know. This is, but who's the bigger surprise then? I'm trying to figure this out in real time. Pascal Siakam, 24.8 points, 7.7 assists. Yeah, okay. Hitting 51.9% of his twos. His 3-point volume is about the same. So is his percentage. Yeah, I think that's the one. Unless you wanted to go with like OG Anunoby a little bit, or is it Christian Koloko coming in and blocking everything known to man? Even that's probably not as surprising. I think you could also say, if the season ended today, would Pascal Siakam be one of the top 10 MVP candidates? And would you have predicted that? That might be the even bigger surprise here. But that's, yeah. Whoa, man, Buck, I didn't see you phrasing it like that. Love it. Utah Jazz, everything. Yeah, look, they're first in the West. They have the 4th best offense in the league. They're 4th in offensive rebounding rate. They turn the ball over a lot. They don't get to the line ever. Their defense is 24th. It doesn't matter. They have a positive point. They have the 7th biggest net rating in the league right now. Larry Markkinen just looks great. Looks like an all-star, hitting a great deal of shots, throwing some nice passes. Colin Sexton improving his shot selection to cut out on some of those. Still has a lot of junky twos, but not taking as many pull-up jumpers, and they've spaced the floor for him to get to the rim more. Jordan Clarkson just deciding to turn into like a really good passer now. Mike Conley going from, financial albatross when you look at his contract, to could the Mavericks trade for him already? Just like Malik Beasley, just like never missing from 3 and taking them in droves. Walker Kessler coming in and just like looking not as, slow as I thought he would on defense, but also grasping NBA defense, I think, better than I thought he was going to. Kelly Olynyk sort of reinventing his stock here. This team has been deep. It's been fun. They're first in the West. 18 games in the season, first in the West. How are they not the biggest surprise in the entire league? And then finally, we have the Washington Wizards Jordan Goodwin seizing his moment. Man, did not see this one coming. I think that's paved the way with Corey Crispert's injuries for sure. And then they apparently don't want to play. There's a DeLon Wright injury, and they definitely don't want to play Johnny Davis. If you were looking for a spicier surprise here, I think, look, Buck kind of hits it on the head in that I don't know that there necessarily would be one. There's not one that stands out. It's before his ankle injury, the Wizards kind of decided that, hey, Rui Hachimura is going to be just like the vessel through which we funnel all of our second unit offense. That probably surprised me a little bit. The other thing, and I think the numbers may have normalized too much for this to hold, but like Kristaps Porzingis in the post was working at one point, and it still is. Yeah, I might go with Kristaps' post play, shooting 54.5% on post ups at the 77th percentile efficiency. Never been his strong suit. So that would be my actual surprise. If you want to go with Jordan Goodwin, that's fine. This was a blast. If you have not subscribed already, please, you made it this far, do so. Hit the sub button, like, comment, help the algorithm love us back. Until next, join our Discord, by the way. Our Discord is in the YouTube description. So click on that, join our Discord, come talk with us. Tell people about us if you follow us and you want to help us grow the community. Until next time, leave it to shout out to the one, the only, the ultimate surprise, Frank Ntilikina.